Hello everyone, it's SpawnPoiint and this is a PS5 and this is an Xbox. But which do you think is better? Because over the last few months we've seen quite a few changes to Xbox. It's got me thinking, do you even need an Xbox in 2025? And how does it compare to the PlayStation 5? So that's what we're going to go over today. We're talking games, accessories, price and even Game Pass versus PlayStation Plus. Which is the better overall console in 2025? But before we jump in, let me know which of these you have and the games you are currently playing. Right, okay, let's start with the games, as I truly believe that is the #1 talking point when it comes to deciding which console to go for. Well, at least it used to be. So back in 2023, I mentioned that 99% of games that we play are available on both consoles. Games like Call of Duty, Battlefield, Fortnite, Cyberpunk and so on. If you're only interested in playing those types of games, it doesn't matter which console you own, as you can buy and play them on both and you're going to get the same experience. However, there is one big difference between the two that, in my opinion, sells consoles, and that's the exclusive games. You know, those games that are limited to only launching on one or the other console. Games like Spider-Man, God of War and The Last of Us for PlayStation, and Halo, Forza and Gears of War on Xbox. So if you want to play a game like The Last of Us, well, you need to play that on PlayStation, and a game like Halo, you need to get an Xbox. And yes, I know PC pretty much plays everything, sometimes with a time delay, but we're only talking about the PS5 and the Xbox today. Well, as I'm sure you're aware, over the last year or so, quite a lot has changed for Xbox exclusives and Xbox games. That's the fact that so many of these games are now heading to PlayStation, or have already been made available on the PS5. Take Forza Horizon 5. This is one of the main exclusive games on Xbox that I think would encourage gamers to pick an Xbox over PlayStation. I mean, it's definitely one of my favourite arcade racing games to play, and one of the main games I still play on the Xbox today. Now, I will cover Game Pass in a few minutes, but by allowing Forza to be bought on the PS5, it removes the need to own an Xbox for that one particular game. And the same could be said for the other exclusive games that we've seen moving over to PlayStation in the last few months. We've had Oblivion Remastered, Indiana Jones and the Great Circle, Grounded, Hi-Fi Rush and Sea of Thieves. And only this week we heard that Gears of War Reloaded, which is one of the best series on Xbox, is also coming to the PS5. And that's not even a time delay either. The remaster will be available on both consoles on the same day. That is huge. That means that PlayStation players can get to play almost everything on the one console. Now, it's clear that Microsoft are shifting away from hardware and focusing on getting their games in front of as many players as possible. And that's not a bad thing, but it does bring us back to the same question I started with. Do you need an Xbox in 2025? Like, if you have an Xbox today and you want to play a PlayStation exclusive, there's nothing you can do about it other than buying a PS5. So for me, I would say Spider-Man, Horizon, God of War and The Last of Us would be games that I'd recommend getting a PS5 for. In fact, I am a huge fan of the PlayStation exclusive games, and unless you own a PC as well, you will need to play them on a PlayStation. Whereas if you own a PS5 and you want to play those Xbox games, it looks like you no longer need to own both consoles to play all of these games. Honestly, who'd have thought that in 2025 we would be playing Forza on a PS5, or getting a Gears of War remaster on here as well. Plus the fact that most of these games benefit from the DualSense features and are PS5 Pro enhanced, it almost feels like a no-brainer to play everything in one place. But with that said, there's still one big difference between Xbox and PlayStation other than the games themselves, and that's Game Pass versus PlayStation Plus. Now, if you only want to buy your games, whether that be physical or digital, then Game Pass and PlayStation Plus will make no difference to you, as you'll still buy the game and pay anywhere from $40 to $100 depending on the bundle or the game that you go for. Neither platform or console works out cheaper when buying games outright. But if you'd rather not buy your games and you like the idea of renting or borrowing them, that's where Game Pass and PS Plus comes in. Personally, I have both Game Pass Ultimate and PlayStation Plus Premium, mainly so I can play those games that I have no intention of buying, and although they offer a very similar experience, they are also quite different as well. Let's start with PS Plus. So this has a library of hundreds of games now, including Spider-Man, God of War, Days Gone, and so many more. To be honest, most of the PlayStation exclusives that we spoke about earlier, but there are also hundreds of other games on here too. Now, depending on the plan that you go for, you can also play those classic PS1 and PS2 games, and they keep adding about 10 to 15 new games every single month. And of course, not forgetting the monthly PS Plus games that we get, where each month we have 3 new games added to the library that we can download and keep. Now, although we do get those PlayStation exclusives on here, we don't usually get the brand new exclusives on day one. So take Spider-Man 2, if you want to play that, you will need to buy that regardless of the plan that you're on. But then we have Game Pass, and I've said this before, but Game Pass is on a different level. Not only do we get hundreds of games in the library, most of which you can cross-compare with PS Plus, but they give us something that PlayStation doesn't. And that's day one releases. So we talked about games like Indiana Jones and Oblivion Remastered. Well, those launch straight to Game Pass at no extra cost. Forza, that's on Game Pass. The upcoming Gears of War Reloaded, that's also going straight to Game Pass on day one. So although we can play the same Xbox games on both PlayStation and Xbox, if you want to rely on a monthly subscription for your games, then Game Pass will give you just that. And it will do a very good job of providing almost every game that you want. But this will lock you into paying a subscription indefinitely, as once you stop paying, those games will no longer be playable. Whereas buying the games outright means you can keep playing without a subscription. But if you're only interested in paying a monthly fee for games, once you've downloaded 2 to 3 games a year, you've pretty much paid for your entire annual cost. And then just coming back to that question again, if you want to use Game Pass for your library of games, do you need an Xbox? Well, no, you still don't need an Xbox for Game Pass. Now, although I don't think we will ever see a Game Pass app on a PS5, that just wouldn't make sense for either of them. You can still download and use Game Pass pretty much everywhere else. If you've got a phone, well, you can download the Game Pass app, or even a recent smart TV. Yep, you can install Game Pass on that and stream or play those games straight to the TV. You literally don't even need an Xbox to play Xbox games. Even their marketing is essentially calling everything an Xbox. We're just one step away from having this as an Xbox on a PS5. But it also means that you can have a PS5 and then a Game Pass app on your TV, and you've covered pretty much all bases. Of course, then we have things like the controllers. Even after 4 years with both consoles, there's still a clear divide between these two. The Xbox controller is what we've been used to for years. It's not much different to the Xbox One controller, has a decent battery life, asymmetrical thumbsticks, and loads of custom colour choices to pick from. In fact, I think the Design Lab is a game changer for getting the perfect custom controller. A real shame that PlayStation doesn't offer this. But then there's the DualSense controller. This is a whole new design compared to what we've had previously, and has some brilliant features including the haptic feedback and the adaptive triggers. I feel that once you've used one of these in certain games like Astro Bot or Horizon, you realise how they make the games feel that little bit more immersive. Of course, we also have those limited edition controllers to pick up, but most of these sell out fast and you have to try and buy them second hand. Now, personally, I do prefer the symmetrical layout of the PS5 controller, but if you didn't, there are third-party controllers for both consoles that you can use instead. So for example, Hyperkin announced one of these for Xbox, where it looks a little bit like a PS5 controller, and Razer and Nakon have one of these for the PS5. So if you wanted that asymmetrical layout on the PS5, this is the way you could do it. Now, we also have the 2 Pro controllers for both consoles. So we've got the DualSense Edge and the Elite Series 2 controller. These give us those extra buttons or paddles around the back and instant triggers across the top. They cost a little bit more, but the build quality and the features that we're getting definitely make it worth it. Okay, then VR is a big one. So if you're a gamer that wants to try or use VR, then naturally the PS5 is the only choice here, unless you go for something like a MetaQuest headset. But again, we are only talking about the Xbox and the PS5 today. So on the PS5, we get the PSVR 2 headset. This comes with the headset and 2 controllers, which you can use on those VR-compatible games. The library has got bigger and bigger over the years. And not only are there dedicated VR games like Horizon Call of the Mountain and the Mossbook games, there are games that can do both. So take GT7 and the Midnight Walk. These are games that can either be played normally without a headset or with VR. So it's great that we can switch between the 2 modes depending on if you've got a headset or what gaming mood that you're in. Whereas on the Xbox, there is not a VR headset available or any VR games to play natively on the console. And if you want to remote play, well, you can do this on either of the 2 consoles. Now, we do have the option to use a handheld console or your phone and your iPad. So on the Xbox, it's a case of downloading the Xbox or the Game Pass app, and you can remote play your games from here. This works on quite a few devices now, including things like the Logitech G Cloud, your mobile phone, or things like the ROG Ally X. And then on PlayStation, we have the Remote app, which also works in the same way. Download this to your phone or your tablet, and you can remote play your games from here. But there's also the option to use the PlayStation Portal. This is the dedicated PlayStation accessory that you can use to stream your games as long as you have an internet connection. Now this had a bit of a rocky launch initially, as it was limited to only working while connected to your PS5, whereas today you can use this to stream your PS Plus games without connecting to your PS5. I've used this everywhere and it is great to play those PS5 games while you're not at your setup. Okay, then another factor we're talking about is the cost of these two. So we've seen the prices increase over the last couple of months, which if you've not bought one yet, could impact your decision on which one you'd rather get. So first up we have the Series S. This is the entry-level Xbox console that has lower specs and no disk drive, but it's also the cheapest, coming at £299 or $379. This is the perfect console if you're not bothered about having the best visuals and just want to play games. And then there's the Series X. This one is more powerful, has a disk drive and offers the full 4K and 120 FPS support in those games that support it. But it costs £499 or $599 with the latest price increase. Okay, then there's the PS5. So there are actually three versions here to choose from. We've got the PS5 Digital and the PS5 Disc, both identical specs other than the disc drive on the side. So these two cost £390 or $450 and £480 or $500. And finally, the PS5 Pro, the latest PS5 that we've got. Now this is what I've been using for the last few months. It plays the same games as the base PS5 but gives us better visuals and a better overall performance. But this one costs £699 or $699. This is the console you want to get if you want the best looking and performing games. Okay, so normally you would get to this point in the video and say, so which is better? And I would say they're both the same, choose the one that you like. But you know what? I don't believe that is the case anymore. Ultimately, it comes down to three things. Which controller you prefer, which we have said you can get a lookalike controller for the other console now. Where your mates are, although you could use Discord and chat to each other that way. And do you want Game Pass, although that is available everywhere, not just on an Xbox. So answering the first question, do you need an Xbox in 2025? Honestly, no you don't anymore. If you don't have one already, I really don't see the need to buy one today. And if you've not got either of these, just buy a PS5. Out of these two, I would pick the PS5. It plays exclusives, has a DualSense controller, VR headset, PlayStation Portal, and can now play most of the Xbox exclusive games all in one place. Sure, you would have to buy those Xbox games instead of renting them, but at least you will own them. But of course, this is just my own opinion. What about you guys? Which console would you pick if you could only choose the one? Do you think the PS5 is the better overall choice, or am I completely wrong with my breakdown of both consoles today? Either way, it is awesome that more and more games are launching on both consoles, which ultimately is all that we want to see. And I will not be selling my Xbox as I do use Game Pass. Now drop a PS5 versus Xbox in the comments and I will give you a thumbs up for staying right till the end. And if you did enjoy today's video, check out my new gaming setup video next. Well, thanks for watching. Please like, subscribe and follow me everywhere. Until next time.